Thank you NordVPN for sponsoring this video. So guys, Apple finally announced the new iPhone 14 lineup at the event this week, and now the big question is, should you upgrade? Let's ramble.
Hold up, things go wild when I pull up. They all on me like it wants.
Hey, what's up guys? It's great to see you all again, and if you're new here, I'm Patrick, and this is where I ramble about tech and other stuff. So after weeks and weeks of speculation and rumors, Apple finally announced their new product lineup at the Apple event this week, and the #1 product at the September events is of course the iPhone, or more precisely iPhones, because Apple announced 4 new iPhones: the regular iPhone 14, the 14 Plus, which is basically the same but bigger, and of course the good old Pro and Pro Max. And yes, that means no more mini. And I know some people will be disappointed about that, myself included, but it is what it is, so I guess we have to move on. Anyway, whenever there is a new iPhone, Apple users across the globe get that itch, that feeling of FOMO, and we start asking ourselves, do I need this phone? And being a techie myself, I know exactly what that feels like. Among gearheads, we call this phenomenon GAS, aka Gear Acquisition Syndrome, and I've been known to get quite gassy when it comes to Apple products. Now, since I'm running a tech channel on YouTube with a very strong focus on Apple products, I have the perfect excuse to buy that latest tech. In fact, some more cynical tongues, aka my girlfriend, would argue that I started this channel precisely because I needed an excuse to buy the latest tech. But that's beside the point. The point is, I wouldn't be much of a tech channel if I didn't at least get this thing in for review. So there we are. Speaking of reviews, there will be a lot of them coming on the channel, including the new iPhone and the Apple Watch Ultra. So if you're interested in that, please do hit that subscribe button. It would be much appreciated. Anyway, we're not all tech reviewers, so for most people, the answer to should I upgrade will have to be a little bit more substantial. And of course, we need to try to keep a distinction between need and want, and us humans are masters of self-manipulation when it comes to convincing ourselves of a need. So let's try to look at this as objectively as we can and try to determine whether there is in fact a need for you to upgrade or not. So let's first have a look at what these 4 new iPhones have to offer. Now guys, a little side note here, if you're thinking of getting any type of new device, installing the best VPN as a first order of business should be an absolute no-brainer. If you've seen any of my best apps videos, chances are you've heard me talk about NordVPN. It's just one of those absolute essentials. We're talking about ultra-portable devices here. We use them literally everywhere, and that often means using public Wi-Fi, so a VPN is a must-have to protect your device and your privacy. And when it comes to that kind of protection, I want the best there is, and that is NordVPN. But of course, a good VPN does much more than that. We all know how annoying it can be when you're traveling and all of a sudden you can't watch your favorite movies or TV shows because you're in another country. Not a problem, you just open the map, click on your home country, and bam, you have access to all your favorite content again. But it also works the other way around. A streaming service isn't available in your country, simply change your virtual location and now you have access to it. Or maybe you want to download a game that isn't available where you are, change your location and buy it. So NordVPN protects you, and at the same time it lifts all kinds of geographic restrictions. Pretty awesome. Go to NordVPN/PatrickRambles to get a huge discount off the 2-year plan with 4 additional months for free. And you don't need to worry about taking any risks because NordVPN offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Right, back to the video. So the 14 and the 14 Plus are big phones, 6.1 inches for the iPhone 14 and 6.7 inches for the Plus. The new iPhone also has a new internal design, which should give it better thermal performance, meaning it won't get as hot when doing intensive things like gaming. Both models have a Super Retina XDR display with a 1200 nits peak brightness OLED screen, and that is pretty bright. What hasn't changed is the design, and that is quite disappointing because the Pro lineup has an all-new design, and who wants their brand new phone to look like last year's model? I'm not entirely sure what Apple's playing at here. Maybe they're trying to get more people to migrate over to the Pro models by making the regular 14 look like a bit of a B model. Who knows? But they do come in 5 colors, being Midnight, Starlight, Blue, Purple, and Product Red. The regular 14 keeps that same all-day battery life as the previous model, but the 14 Plus is said to have the best battery life ever in an iPhone, which brings it up to par with the Pro Max models. The 14 comes with an A15 Bionic chip and a 5-core GPU, which is 18% faster, a 6-core CPU with 2 high-performance and 4 efficiency cores, and a 16-core neural engine. It also has a custom image signal processor on board, powering the improved camera system. It has a 12 megapixel main camera with a larger sensor, and larger sensors mean more light, and that's always a good thing. It has an f1.5 aperture and sensor shift optical image stabilization. Pretty impressive is that the iPhone will deliver almost 50% better low light performance, and it does so by what Apple calls the photonic engine. The front-facing camera is a 12 megapixel true depth camera with an f1.8 aperture, again helping in low light, and it has autofocus, which is pretty great to have on a phone. In terms of video, the iPhone 14 comes with a more advanced stabilization mode called Action Mode, which I guess is an attempt to emulate the smoothness of action cameras like the GoPro or the Insta360. Very cool though is that the iPhone now offers the option to have more than one eSIMs on a single device, unless you live outside of the US, in which case you don't get this option. So us Europeans get less and pay more. Crash detection. The new safety feature on the Apple Watch will also be available on the iPhone 14, and the phone comes with new ways of connecting to communication satellites when you find yourself in remote areas and you need help. It only works when the sky is unobstructed and you do have to point it directly at a satellite, but Apple has implemented a feature that tells you exactly where that satellite might be. Now, by the way, Apple presented this new feature very cautiously without overpromising things, so you can tell it's still in its infancy, but it is an impressive feature, and I do hope they will keep building on this to one day maybe even eliminate our dependence on cellular antennas. And now for the big boys, the 14 Pro and the Pro Max. Unlike the regular 14 and the Plus, these come in a new design which ditches the notch and introduces a pill-shaped cutout. And while I'm undecided on what looks better, I do really want to give credit to Apple here for finding an incredibly creative way of giving that cutout a place rather than it being a waste of space. I mean, they took something that is basically a nuisance and they managed to make it a cool new feature. Big props for that. The cutout is now surrounded with adaptive messaging, notifications, and animations, making use of the cutout to let us know what is happening in the background. What exactly is displayed depends on the apps you have running in the background. Very, very cool feature. With that said, who on earth came up with that name? I mean, come on, Dynamic Island. The Pro lineup comes with a new advanced display, and if it does what it says on the tin, it really is quite nice. The displays are 6.1 and 6.7 inches respectively, and they are significantly brighter than their predecessors. They now offer 1600 nits of peak brightness in HDR, which brings it to the same level as the Pro Display XDR. And on sunny days, the brightness can be pushed even further to 2000 nits. That is just nuts. I'm a bit worried about what that might mean for the battery life, but time will tell. And finally, Apple is giving us a very much requested feature, finally, always on display, so you can see your essential information without having to lift or tap your phone. Apple says that this is possible because of the new low power mode that can bring the refresh rate down all the way to 1 Hz. The Pro and Pro Max are powered by the new A16 Bionic chip, built on a 4nm process, delivering a 6-core CPU, of which 2 high-performance and 4 high-efficiency cores, 5-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine. It also has a new display engine, making things like always on display possible. And of course, these new phones come with even better camera systems. A whopping 48 megapixel camera with a quad pixel sensor. And let me tell you, to have something like that on a phone is just bonkers. It is also said to have twice the low light performance of the iPhone 13 Pro, which was already pretty good. And because of the new technologies used, there is now a 2x telephoto option available without the need for an additional lens. The cameras offer Pro RAW, emulating RAW photography and mirrorless cameras, and the Pro also has an improved 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, which is capable of shooting detailed macro shots. We can now shoot 4K 30 frames per second in cinematic mode, which is a little disappointing. I would have at least expected 4K 60, especially since we had rumors of 8K video coming. That didn't happen, but to be honest, I can barely get the 4K footage off my phone, especially when it's shot in ProRes, and get it onto my computer, since both AirDrop and the Lightning cable are super slow. And yes, we're still stuck with that ridiculous prehistoric cable. Thankfully, the EU has passed new laws making USB-C the new standard, at least from 2023 onwards, which means Apple will have no choice but to finally join the rest of the world by using a decent cable. And when that happens, maybe we can actually transfer 8K video to computers, but right now that would be just a nightmare. Some good news is that the price did not increase, and the Pro still starts at $999 and the Pro Max at $1099, just like the previous models. And it's available in space black, deep purple, silver, gold. Right, so now we know what's new. Do we need to upgrade? Well, obviously the answer to that question is very subjective and personal, but the way I see it, there's a couple of scenarios where upgrading generally makes sense. The first one might be obvious, and that is when there's something wrong with your current phone. Maybe it's broken, maybe you've already had it fixed a couple times and you're just tired of dealing with that, and it's time for a new phone. In that case, it obviously makes sense to take the plunge, but even then you might want to ask yourself whether you need the newest model, or maybe you want to invest in a slightly older model like the 13 or a 12 even. Heck, I know people that are still on the iPhone 11 and love it. One of the advantages of a new model iPhone dropping is that the older models will likely drop even more in price, especially when you buy it refurbished or on the secondhand market. However, if you are the type of person that likes to buy a phone and hang on to the same phone until it literally dies on you, I would probably recommend getting the latest possible model so you don't need to worry about it being future-proof, as it will have many upgrade cycles ahead of it. If you do have a more recent model, it could also be that your phone isn't offering you what you need from it any longer. Maybe it's become a bit sluggish for the things you use it for, or maybe you found out the hard way that you actually should have bought more internal storage. In that case, I would also suggest upgrading to the latest model, which will be the fastest, and you can still choose the internal storage you want. Lucky for you, resale value on Apple products is typically pretty good, so chances are you will be able to sell your more recent model for a very good price, which will make buying that new model hurt just a little bit less. And then of course there's the hardcore Apple fans. Maybe you just need that dynamic island in your life. Maybe you just want the latest and greatest and you have the cash to burn. In that case, I say Godspeed, you do you, and by all means hit that purchase button. But guys, if you own a recent model, I'd say 11 and up, and you're on a budget and you're really pondering whether upgrading to the iPhone 14 is necessary, I'd say keep your money in your pockets and wait it out at least another year. Next year, we'll most likely see some more substantial updates like the USB-C port, which will come with a whole raft of benefits like faster transfer speeds, etc. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you have a recent iPhone and it works well, and it does all the things you want it to do, you don't need this phone. There will always be something better and shinier on the horizon, but once the new toyness of it wears off, you'll find that most of the apps look and feel the same across most recent iPhones anyway. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please get one of these. It really does help the channel. Subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.